Once again, it is I, the Nomad, coming to you live from the wastelands of the internet. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I have returned once again, all right, to bring you the news of the week. Okay, there are a lot of things going on as I mean, in my personal life, in real life, in IRL, and also in the world in general. To talk about. I would like to get back at some point to doing my show more or less on a daily basis. I have been trying since they decided to say, "Oh, we'll let you back on if we canned you for COVID and election engineering that we were told to do so by the Biden administration, YouTube." So I would like to get an old channel back along those lines, but we'll see. Right? Um, they, I seriously doubt that they're going to actually live up to their expectations because YouTube just never does do that. Right? In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if they're listening in on this channel and then they ban me for what I said earlier. All right. So it is what it is. All right. Anyway, welcome. All right. We have the news. Let's get started, shall we? From Pravda. Okay, Russian officials issues nuclear threat to Trump's America. Kremlin official Dmitry Medvedev, a former president of Russia, has issued a stark warning to the United States, saying Russia possesses weapons that a bomb shelter won't protect against, after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky suggested that Moscow officials should prepare to take cover if they continue their war in the Ukraine. At the UN, we will bury you, shoe on the face. And I know I'm making light of this to a degree, all right? But the reality is, this is nothing new. Tell me something we don't know, folks. In a recent interview, Zelensky said President Donald Trump had explicitly backed Ukrainian strikes on Russian targets, including arms factories and energy infrastructure. He added that if Ukraine receives more long-range American weaponry, then we will use it. Medvedev, the deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council and a former Russian president and prime minister, responded on social media platform X, writing, "The Kiev drug addict that said the Kremlin should know where a bomb shelter is so its occupants can hide when he uses long-range American weapons. What the freak needs to know is that Russia can use weapons that a bomb shelter won't protect against. Americans should also keep this in mind." Okay, So let's let's move on, shall we? Dun, 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 dun. Oh, the Europeans! The Europeans privately tell Russia they are ready to down jets. European diplomats warned the Kremlin this week that NATO is ready to respond. How they say this. Europeans tell Russia NATO is ready. Really? NATO is ready, huh? NATO is ready to respond to further violations of its airspace with full force, including shooting down Russian planes, according to officials familiar with the exchange. Uh huh. Yeah, yeah. We told them Russies. We told them Ruskies. They better look out, or NATO will stand up. NATO is prepared to shoot down Russian aircraft. NATO. Really? Really? Huh? You must be serious, huh? Boy, the Europeans are getting serious now. Tell me, was it the Germans that said we are going to do it? Was it the great French macaroon saying we will do it? No, it is. Well, NATO is ready. We of course will be involved. The big European powers, yeah, they're ready. Sure, they are. What they mean is, America said that they'll sit up there and attack you. That's what they said. Because everybody knows there is nothing, there's no such thing as NATO. Without the United States, there is no such thing as NATO. So therefore, you can say the NATO is the United States. This is why I've been advocating. It's fine. Let the Europeans fend for themselves. We need to pull out of NATO. These backstabbing weasels can stand on their own. You can't say that, Nomad. You can't say that. I just did. They're a bunch of backstabbing weasels, and we'll get to that later. Let's take a look at the map of the Ukrainians. The Russian offensives continue. The Russian offensives continue, and lo and behold, looks like they're still making ground. They're still gaining ground all across the frickin' lines. But of course, Patriot systems from Israel operated in the Ukraine for a month. Volodymyr Zelensky said, we will receive 2 more Patriot air defense systems in the fall. From where? Israel? Israel sit up there and is giving air defense systems on over to the Ukrainians. I wonder why the Ukrainian they're doing that. We'll have to wonder about that for a while. We'll have to wonder about that. But as you can see, the fighting beat still goes on here. This pocket, it looks as if slowly but surely they're going to close this pocket here. This their assailant here is already looks like they've already kind of more or less sealed this area out now. All right, although fighting is still continuing. Obviously, they're claiming a village in this area here, which means they pushed out a little bit further here. If I would have a guess, I would say over near Zaporizhzhia, which is right here. And I realize I'm probably mispronouncing it, but I want to call it Zaporizhzhia. It looks to me as if they're probably about 25 kilometers or so, or maybe less away. Um, they will have to take this area here first. No, man, why do you say that? Because this is just marshland. You're not going through this, and I seriously doubt they'll be able to use this road if the Ukrainians are fighting like they are. right, then I don't foresee any way that this road system here is maintained as operational. So this area here will push up to here, all right, if it swings around. All right, most likely, however, what's happening is this push from this area here is going up. Once they take this, then it's going to be a fight to come up here. Now, fighting through this is nasty territory to fight through. All right, it's horrible. But winter is coming, and when winter comes, a lot of these areas become more viable as far as getting across. So we'll see what happens come wintertime in this, as far as from the Russian and Ukrainian perspectives. It does look like Russia has stopped a lot of their heavier, deep incursions. Right, they had been bombing Pavlorod and all these other areas here pretty heavily, and are now trying to looks like work on more tactical areas rather than strategic bombings type of bombings. All right, to try and take and seize land in these areas. Okay, that's what it appears to me. The Russians are still gaining ground. They have not moved toward Kharkiv very that much, but it wouldn't surprise me if they all of a sudden make huge gains in this upper territory here. It looks like they're still maintaining their push here. However, the Russians being the Russians, right? Now, how long can they continue this? There are people who are saying reports of Russian deaths are extraordinarily high. They're saying they're losing 1,000 troops, 2,000 troops a month. Okay, if they're losing 2,000 troops a month, or, actually it was 2,000 troops a week. If they're losing 2,000 troops a week, you're talking 100,000 troops in a year gone. You can't sustain that for too much longer. The one thing that we're never being told, however, is Ukrainian losses. Now, the Ukrainian losses could be minimal and being kept minimal intentionally as they build up a core for a spring offensive, which is possible that's what they're doing. But in order to do it, you need equipment. And I just don't see the equipment reserves being built up for a counteroffensive. I know people are thinking, well, Trump he's tired of Putin and everything else. Well, yeah, he's tired of Putin, but that doesn't mean he's going to tell the Ukrainians, okay, we're going to give you carte blanche to go defeat them. That you're going to sit up there and be able to raid the U.S. Treasury, all right, and go and we'll fund put the equipment there and fund it from the American Treasury. See, that's the problem with all this. Everyone keeps talking good games, but when it comes to delivering, where is it? There's only one way the Ukrainians can defeat the Russians, and that's with massive U.S. influx of equipment and logistics. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. And you're not going to have it happen from the wonderful European Union or NATO as a whole. In other words, it's more bluster. Netanyahu tells the UN that war will continue amid global backlash. Bibi castigated his weak-kneed critics and vowed to continue fighting Israel's enemies until they are gone in a defiant speech at the United Nations on Friday that was simultaneously broadcast into the Gaza Strip by speakers at the direction of the Israeli Prime Minister. Many of those who wage war on Israel today will be gone tomorrow, he said, as throngs of diplomats walked out in protest of his address at the cavernous UN General Assembly Hall. The annual gathering of world leaders in New York began with prominent Western powers, including France, Britain, and Canada, recognizing the the prominent Western powers of France, Britain, and Canada, recognizing the Palestinian state and calling for an end to Israel's military campaign. Those pleas coincided with intensifying Israeli attacks inside Gaza City and the collapse of the area's already beleaguered healthcare system, which have sent medics and patients fleeing. Netanyahu claimed that the final remnants of Hamas are holed up in Gaza City and that Israel must finish the job. He's not wrong, by the way. Although he's wrong about what Hamas is. Okay. Airstrikes and shooting kill at least 44 people in Gaza as Israel ignores demands for a ceasefire. Israel strikes and gunfire killed at least 44 people across Gaza, health officials said Saturday, as international pressure grows for a ceasefire, but Israel's leaders remain defiant. Among the dead were 9 from the same family in a house in the Noiserat, all right, Nusrat, I don't know how to pronounce it, refugee camp, according to staff at Al-Awadi Hospital, where bodies were brought. 5 others were killed when a strike hit a tent for the displaced, according to Nasser Hospital, which received the dead. Israel's army said that they were not aware of anyone being killed by gunfire Saturday in southern Gaza and didn't provide an immediate comment about the airstrikes. The director of the Shifa Hospital in Gaza City told the Associated Press that medical teams were concerned about Israeli tanks approaching the vicinity of the hospital, restricting access to the facility where 159 patients are being treated. And how many Hamas leaders are running in and out of the hospital and using it as cover? Just curious. Just curious. Seeing as these people have been using these hospitals, has Hamas been using hospitals as their headquarters or putting their headquarters right underneath these hospitals, um, and you're treating 159 patients, I understand. Okay. Are the fact that you can still treat them should be telling you wonders in a war zone. In the middle of a war zone, this hospital is still operating. Jimmy Kimmel's show returns. I can already feel the need to not laugh returning. Trust me, the pushback that pushback has yet to that fallout has yet to go because Jimmy Kimmel's show, and I realize I'm sidetracking here. It, Jimmy Kimmel's show doesn't have a long shelf life one way or another. No matter what happens, in my opinion, I seriously doubt he will be on for very much longer. And when I say shelf life, a year, 2 years from now, I doubt he'll be there. Okay. First of all, the guy is not funny. Okay. Second of all, the genre in which he exists is dying. At some point, these late night shows are going to have to fish or cut bait. They don't have a choice. They're going to have to change. The format that they use, the people that they relied upon, they're not coming back. The genre isn't coming back. And I know that I know, Matt, right? That they will keep shows at a loss for longer periods of time. There's no doubt about that. But the company that's running the loss isn't just losing money on that show. They're running a loss across the board, across the spectrum. The fact that they brought Jimmy Kimmel's show back, all right, isn't going to fix the leftist boycott. And it's only going to intensify the boycott of Disney on the right. And it's getting serious. So Disney is in for some real hard decisions if it's going to even remain viable if they're not disintegrated and sold off piece by piece, which is very possible. The new French Prime Minister rules out wealth tax, aims to cut budget deficit by 4.7% in 2026. all while supposedly ramping up their military, right? And their military output in defense. Aha! Okay, where are you going to get these cuts from, buddy? The new French Prime Minister, Sebastien Lecornu, all right, I'm not trying to butcher your name, I probably just did, but it's not intentional, ruled out on Friday's reintroducing a wealth tax or suspending an unpopular pension reforms, giving some of the first indications of his policy plans as he tries to pull together a 2026 budget and a government. Since President Emmanuel Macron made his fifth prime minister in less than 2 years amid a deepening political crisis, Lecornu, all right, said little on his intentions, instead focusing on consultations with party leaders and unions. How are you going to do this? Okay? How are you going to do this? Now, first of all, a wealth tax is useless. Okay, for people who don't understand this, a wealth tax is not is basically saying, okay, if you're worth a certain amount of money as we assess things, and then you have to assign people to assess things, you owe us this percentage of money. The problem with doing that is you're just basically taking the government is basically just seizing property. That's what the government is essentially doing at this point. And you start seizing property for the government eventually runs out of property owned by other people. That's what will happen. Wealth taxes or poll taxes, which are very similar, have never worked in the long run. And when you've got a deficit spending, you've got to get spending under control. The problem isn't the amount of revenue coming into the government, it's the amount of revenue going out. It's the amount of money you're spending. How do you stop spending? Especially in areas now where, okay, well, we got to plus up the military because of the great Russian horde. We're worried about the Russian bear. We can't trust America. We got to start being real Europeans. Okay, how are you going to do it? You're going to have to stop spending in other areas, which means guess what? Social programs are going to have to get cut. They'll never do that. They won't. See, there comes a point where you run out of other people's money, and you're running out of other people's money. You're going to have to sit up there and put in austerity measures. There's no other choice. And I realize the Parisians, especially, are going to riot. Holy hell. Because see, the Parisians are the only ones left, and what I mean by Parisians isn't just the people who live in Paris, but all the city folk, all the city folk who have been living high on the hog on these policies because they dominated the government. They haven't realized yet they can't steal from the rural populations anymore. Which is why you had the huge issues with the farmers, where the farmers were bringing in, honeydew wagons to spray feces all over government buildings. There's a realization now, oh God, we can't tax them anymore. Well, who's left to tax? Where else do you get the money? So they came up with the idea, well, we'll do a wealth tax and we'll just assess the people who have the land, aka the farmers, and we'll say their land is worth XYZ so we can try and take more of it away from them. But see, that's the only productive member of society that they have. France is screwed. There is no way to fix this without stopping spending. Good luck. Meanwhile, Switzerland doubles imports of Russian gold despite EU sanctions. From Pravda. Switzerland significantly increased its import of Russian origin gold in the first half of this year despite ongoing sanctions, according to the UN Comtrade data cited by RIA Novosti. All right, Swiss purchases of the precious metal almost doubled compared to the same period last year. The rise is striking given that in August of 2022, Switzerland formally joined the European Union embargo on Russian gold. This is why when we talk about the United States, oh, the United States needs to bring in sanctions. We can't sanction anything anymore, folks. We have nothing more to sanction because we've actually sanctioned them. Right now, the only ones who can actually sanction Russia are the Europeans, and they have no freaking interest in doing so. Absolutely none. They have no interest in stopping, okay, the import of oil. They have no interest in stopping anything that they're talking about. So how the hell are you going to, is the United States going to do anything? Oh, the U.S. could do a lot. They could sit up there and hit it with the banking thing. What difference does it make if the U.S. sits up there and does it in the banking system? I've said this before. If the Europeans are going to ignore it anyway, and we're not going to hold the Europeans accountable, and they know we won't, right? Then it's not going to matter. No more U.S. sanctions are going to affect anything Russia is doing. Until the Europeans get serious about taking care of this, nothing the U.S. does is going to make a flipping bit of difference. Not one thing. And the Europeans are liars, they're backstabbers, they're weasels, and they're not going to do a damn thing. This is one of the reasons why we need to pull out of the UN. It's one of the reasons why we need to pull out of NATO, because we don't have allies there. You want to see what an ally does? This. Japan refrains from recognizing the Palestinian state at the UN confab. See, this is an ally. Japan on Monday stopped short of joining a growing list of countries recognizing a Palestinian state at a high-level UN meeting, but emphasized that the two-state solution remains the only viable path for lasting peace for the Israelis and Palestinians alike. Okay, I know what everyone keeps saying, and I'm going to tell you right now. It might be the only true way of doing it, but only and only when Palestinians want peace. They don't want peace. Otherwise, Hamas wouldn't exist. The Palestinians do not want peace. When the Palestinians decide they just want to be left alone, okay, that's when you'll have peace. But the Palestinians don't believe that yet. They don't, folks. They don't. Personally, like I said many times before, all this stuff with the situation and the concentration, it's horrible, it's this, it's that, it's bullshit. I've said this before, it's all bullshit. Palestinians don't want peace. They should be made to want peace. Until they truly want to be left alone. They don't. Okay? They want everything else for themselves. They want to take whatever they can. That's who they are. From India. Whoop, wrong thing. West Bengal. Influencer arrested for comments against the armed forces. A social media influencer was arrested in West Bengal's Nadia district for allegedly making derogatory comments against the armed forces, and officials said on Saturday. The man, identified as Biswas, aka Fit Biswasit, all right, was arrested from the Dahnala police station area on Friday, they said. His remarks triggered widespread outrage, with many of them calling an insult to the pride of the nation. Several ex-servicemen and family members of soldiers demanded a strict penal action against him. Because India is a free nation, and it doesn't believe in jailing people for their commentary. Notice the difference in government sanctions, folks? Do you see the difference? Meanwhile, in another wonderful show of support for the Palestinian cause, Iran recalls ambassadors to France, Britain, and Germany. Oh, the horror! Iran has recalled its ambassadors to France, Britain, and Germany, collectively known as the E3, following their launch of a mechanism to reinstate international sanctions on Tehran, the Iranian Foreign Ministry said on Saturday. In a statement, the ministry condemned the E3's decision to trigger the snapback mechanism as irresponsible, adding that the ambassadors were summoned to Tehran for consultations. Last month, the E3 formally invoked the mechanism. So it took them a month, which allows for the reimposition of UN sanctions within 30 days if Iran is deemed in breach of the 2015 nuclear deal. Surprise! 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 On September 19th, the UN Security Council failed to adopt a resolution that would have extended sanctions relief for Iran under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JAPOA, sorry. A subsequent resolution, which sought to grant a 6-month extension to both the JAPOA and Resolution 2231, which endorses the accord, also failed to pass the UN. The rejection means that the sanctions that were lifted under the deal will be reimposed starting Saturday evening. Dun, da, da, da. I forgot Iran. They've been quiet. Yeah, I wonder why. Why do you think Iran has been shut its mouth for a while? From Yonhap News. On the Korean front, talks between President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on the sidelines of the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in South Korea cannot be ruled out, a Seoul official said on Friday. As of right now, it's difficult to say conclusively, but we cannot rule out the possibility of a Trump-Kim meeting, the official said. During his address to the United Nations General Assembly earlier this week, Trump highlighted his peace efforts amid speculation that he would attempt to re-engage with North Korean leader when he visits South Korea to attend the APEC summit, set to take place in the southeastern city of Gwangju, South Korea on October 31st through November 1st. He voiced his hope to meet Kim earlier this year, raising expectations that he could seek to resume his personal diplomacy with Kim, which led to 3 meetings between them. The first in Singapore in 2018, the second in Hanoi in 2019, and the last at the inner border village of Panmunjom in 2019. The North Koreans have been rattling their saber, saying that their nuclear power or their nuclear weapons program will continue, and it will not be ignored. Most of the world is ignoring them for a variety of reasons, not the least of which they've killed a bunch of their scientists in a weapons test. Nobody should hold out hope of a rapprochement between North Korea and South Korea anytime soon. It's sad, but it's reality. Meanwhile, in jolly old England, Labour's digital ID will be the bedrock of our society, said one of Keir Starmer's top aides as petitions against the policy passes 1 million signatures. Labour's new digital ID will form the bedrock of a modern state, one of the Prime Minister's top aides said as a petition against the policy passed 1.5 million signatures. Anyone who works in the UK will need the ID as part of the government's bid to reduce illegal immigration. But Darren Jones, who is spearheading the policy as chief secretary to the Prime Minister, went further, suggesting it could have much wider uses in the future. You said what about Keir Starmer? The gulag for you! Put up the signs, Arbach macht frei, work means freedom. Civil liberty campaigners have, however, rallied against the plan, with the backlash growing. Last night, a petition on Parliament website titled "Do Not Introduce Digital ID Cards" had more than 1.5 million signatures. Sir Keir Starmer said today the immigration system needs to be fair, as he made the case for digital IDs at the conference of progressive leaders. Let me spell it out. You will not be able to work in the United Kingdom if you do not have a digital ID, he said. It's as simple as that because decent, pragmatic, fair-minded people, we want to tackle the issues that they see around them. Narrator's voice. But it wasn't used to stop illegal immigration. That's exactly right. It's not. It's not at all. It's hilarious, folks. I'm still not sure what the hell they're trying to say with this stuff, but it is what it is. Let's go to the United States. In the news that everybody really wants to talk about, ex-FBI Director James Comey indicted after Trump pushes for prosecution of a longtime foe. James Comey was charged Thursday with lying to Congress in a criminal case filed days after President Donald Trump appeared to urge his attorney general to prosecute the former FBI director and other perceived political enemies. The indictment makes Comey the first senior government official involved in one of Trump's chief grievances, the long concluded investigation into Russian interference in 2016, to face prosecution. Trump has for years derided the investigation as a hoax and a witch hunt, despite multiple government reviews showing Moscow interfered on behalf of the Republican campaign. That, Eric Tucker, is an outright lie. It did not say that, okay? And it was a hoax, and it was a witch hunt, and everybody knows it. You just said that this on behalf of President Trump's campaign, okay, Russia interfered with the election. You're a liar. All three of these people in the AP should be pulled out and say, what evidence do you have, all right, that this was done to help, all right, or that this was done, all right, on behalf, at the behest, well, that's what it means, on behalf of President Trump's campaign. What evidence do you have on that? There is no evidence. The criminal case is likely to deepen concerns that the Justice Department under Pam Bondi was being weaponized. What do you think it was under Biden? What do you think it was under good old frickin' Barack Hussein Obama? That's the whole point of this. And he's not going to be the only one who's indicted. Because it was a campaign within the government to illegally attack an American using tactics that were just outright outrageous, including lying to Congress, lying to judges, all right, falsifying evidence, all right, and taking these steps intentionally. And the one at the frickin' focus point of all this was this dirtbag Comey. These people are out of control. They've been out of control for a while. Whoop. Did it again. Did not mean to do that. What, a little cat thing for Jensen if he arrives. Alrighty. RFK Jr. advisor chased, assaulted at UN by crazed protesters screaming slut and free Palestine. A crazed lefty protester assaulted a senior advisor to Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at the United Nations this week, chasing her around the lobby and into a bathroom stall screaming slut, law enforcement sources say. The unhinged encounter happened around 2 p.m. Thursday when Patricia Shu, 62, allegedly shined a bright light in Sarah Kennedy's face while yelling Free Palestine and pro-LGBT screeds and began chasing her across the lobby. Kennedy, who is not related to her boss at HHS, ran into the bathroom within the bathroom stall and then a bathroom stall to avoid Patricia, but she followed her into the stall and scratched her right eye, possibly with her phone or jewelry, sources say. The stunned staffer was treated at emergency medical services at the scene and refused hospital treatment. Shu, who was allegedly filming Kennedy on her phone as she chased her, was charged with assault and harassment. All right. Now that sounds good. Okay. That sounds all well and good, except for the fact that there are other stories like this one. New York City woman who sucker punched a pro-life activist won't be prosecuted as Manhattan DA Bragg's office admits botching the case. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office quietly dismissed their case against a woman who violently choked a pro-life activist in the face, or punched, excuse me, a pro-life activist in the face, okay, and a conservative law firm now plans to file a civil suit against the assailant. I would also file a lawsuit against the Manhattan District Attorney Bragg. The bungled case is now being reviewed by the Chicago-based firm Thomas More Society, which plans to sue Rivers on behalf of activists Savannah Craven and Tao, the woman Rivers viciously sucker punched on camera during an on-camera street interview in Harlem in April. You, this person doesn't need any more than the other person, right? They don't need to be sued. They need to be jailed. They are violently attacking people. Leftists on the attack. Leftist violence again and again and again by these people. But most of it comes from the right. Most of it comes from the right, though, man. I mean, left-wing groups keep telling us that it's all coming from the right. The ADL, the leftist incarnate Marxism 101, right, for Israel. They told us it's all coming from the right. ATC. More Trump news. Trump's vast federal cuts create distrust on Capitol Hill as shutdown risk grows. I would be, if you're in the government, I would be terrified. All right. If you're a leftist and you're in this government, I would be absolutely terrified. Now, I say if you're a leftist and you're in this government, I say that because 95% of you are leftists that work for the federal government. Okay? 95%. That's an exaggeration. Maybe. Not much. All right? It's not much of an exaggeration. But I would be terrified too. The money started drying up quickly, almost as soon as President Donald Trump began issuing his executive orders. Head Start funds for early childhood programs, National Institute of Health grants, funding for the nation's public libraries and museums, money from a landmark bipartisan infrastructure bill to help schools renovate classrooms, and states build electric vehicle charging stations because they've been so effective that they've built, what, two? There's lots of fear out there, right? Said Tommy Sheridan, deputy director of the National Head Start Association, whose organization raised early concerns about funding delays that could impact. Look, you love this. So the funding that has happened hasn't impacted anything, but it could impact families and children. While money is largely flowing again, he said, thanks in large part to Head Start's track record celebrating its 60-year anniversary. Obviously, we need to make sure our funding is reliable. In other words, all your fear-mongering led to nothing. You lied about all the things. But see, there is a showdown, a government shutdown looming. Okay? And it's looming because the leftists demand funds for illegal immigration and LGBTQ causes. And unless they get that, they will let the federal government shut down. Good. The worst thing the leftists can do right now is let the government shut down, and they don't even know it. Hey, DC, Bobby B, welcome, welcome. Let it shut down. Let it shut down, folks. Nobody's going to care. The only ones who are going to care of the federal workers. And the federal workers, if you haven't made your case yet, okay, if you think that this is going to be like the last bunch of times, oh no, Trump has a plan. Go ahead, let it shut down. I'll just start firing people. He's already said that. And people, they better realize he's serious. He will permanently reduce, this will give him the chance to permanently reduce staff. And no matter how many of your little organizations run to this judge or that judge to get a temporary injunction, okay? No matter how many of you run to do that, it's only temporary during the shutdown where you can't be paid. Hey, guess what? It's going to end up in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has already been very, very blunt about these things. You lost your job. The president has the right to fire people. And if he uses this as a chance to say, you know what, let's start cleaning house. Leftists, you're on notice because you're so stupid, you don't think it's going to happen to you. Just like what happened to the Hollywood screenwriters who are now going, I've lost my job. I can't get work. No shit. You went on strike. You, quote unquote, forced those evil, you know, those evil production companies like Disney and Viacom, and they now got to pay us our fair share. And they said, okay, that's fine. We'll go give in your demands, but there won't be very many of you to give into. and they don't have jobs. All their jobs are gone. Why do you think? Why? Why do you think a lot of movies were being filmed in Great Britain? Why did all these places go over to Great Britain to film? Because they were funding it. The British government was funding a lot of this stupid nonsense. It became cheaper to do it outside of the United States. And these screen actors and everything else, these SAG actors, guess what? You're all screwed. And now you're all complaining. Oh, sure, the celebrities, the known celebrities, they're not suffering. But the wannabes are. Speaking of wannabes, a group of 5 Florida men are facing an assortment of criminal charges for battering and falsely imprisoning a man who they targeted in a To Catch a Predator style sting that was recorded and uploaded to a website for public viewing for profit, according to court records. As alleged arrest affidavits, the video vigilantism occurred around 2 a.m. Friday at the home in Largo in the city of the Tampa area. A 28-year-old victim arrived at the residence expecting to meet a minor for a sexual encounter. But you didn't arrest the 28-year-old? All right, the man apparently had been lured to the short-term rental property via a dating app or some other fraudulent online enticement. After arriving at the residence, the victim was forced onto a couch while being yelled at to sit the F down and shut the F up. One of the assailants placed the victim in a rear naked chokehold. I don't know what a rear naked chokehold is. All right, while others repeatedly threatened him and warned of police intervention. While pinning the victim down, the defendant stood in a circle around the man and physically attacked him while he was trapped and unable to leave, and was begging and pleading for the attack to stop. Cops charged. One of the men arrested, Matthew Quayle, 19, seen in the upper left, forcibly shaved the head of the victim against his will for humiliation purposes. The group of attackers repeatedly threatened the victim and coerced him into doing acts of humiliation, which were not further described in court documents. The accused men recorded the incident and planned to profit monetarily from the video, which was uploaded to a website for public viewing for profit without the victim's consent. The affidavits did not identify the website. In addition to Quayle, the September 12th arrest netted Roland Yausche, 20, Erald Hashwara, and Dylan Gentry, and Andro Issa. Each man faces a felony false imprisonment charge, while some have also been hit with battery and or robbery accounts. Issa is charged with child neglect, a felony for bringing a female juvenile to the side of the sting, which cops described as an area with an unknown subject believing potentially to be a sex offender. The girls, cops say, was visible in the live stream video. I'm just pointing out that I've warned people about vigilantism taking place. Okay? Vigilantism is going to rise because of the left. All right. Now, this is obviously, who knows what this was about. We don't know all the facts of the case. We're not there. I will say that bringing an underage girl to a scene like this, all right, and I don't know that they don't tell you the girl's age, all right, so you don't know all this. We don't know all the specifics of this, all right, is, in my opinion, problematic. Okay, just pointing it out. Hegseth orders rare urgent meeting of hundreds of generals and admirals. The Defense Secretary, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, has ordered hundreds of U.S. military generals and admirals to gather on short notice without a stated reason at a Marine Corps base in Virginia next week, sowing confusion and alarm after the Trump administration's firing of numerous senior leaders this year. Gee, I wonder what this is about. All right. The highly unusual directive was sent to virtually all of the military's top commanders worldwide, according to more than a dozen people familiar with the matter. It was issued earlier this week against the backdrop of a potential government shutdown, and as Hegseth's overtly political moves have deepened a sense of distress among his opponents who fear that he is he's ensuring, the word is he is ensuring the Defense Department's status as a nonpartisan institution. See, they can't handle this. In a statement Thursday, spokesman Sean Parnell affirmed that Hegseth will be addressing his senior military leaders early next week, but he offered no additional details. Parnell, a senior advisor for the defense secretary, voiced no security concerns about the Washington Post reporting on the meeting scheduled for Tuesday at Quantico, Virginia. It's not clear whether President Donald Trump will attend the meeting or if Hegseth had given the president advance notice of his plans. He told reporters in the Oval Office Thursday that he will go if they want me. Despite the meeting's size and secrecy, both Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance downplayed its significance, with Trump asking, "Why is that such a big deal?" Vance appeared alongside Trump and said, "It's not particularly unusual that generals are speaking with Hegseth. I think it's odd that you guys made it into such a big story." All right. There are a lot of people who are speculating that there's going to be a situation where they're going to declare war, specifically on Venezuela, which we've ramped up the rhetoric and we've also taken out more of their boats. Okay. There are people who are claiming that there are plans to invade Venezuela. I don't believe that necessarily. I'm not saying it's completely off the table. Okay. But I doubt that that's what this is. Okay. What this is this is a kick in the balls to the admirals and the generals, all right, especially the Air Force and the Navy, who have been out of freaking control with their political bullshit. They were given orders to end DEI. And a lot of them have ignored it. A lot of them have gone their own little merry way. You can't touch me. A lot of them have, especially in the Air Force and in the Navy. Yes, some of the Army as well, but mainly in the Air Force and the Navy. And so they're going to be read the Riot Act, and they're going to be told to toe the line, and they're going to be told that the next son of a bitch of those bastards who runs to their little friends in the media as a quote-unquote anonymous source is gone. That's what's happening. It's also happening on this. Pentagon accused of intimidation with new restrictions for journalists. Yeah, they should be banned. That's my view, right? The fact that they're letting them in is what I consider one of the problems. The Pentagon released new restrictions for journalists covering the Department of Defense this week, requiring them to sign a pledge not to gather or report on information that has not been authorized for release, even if it's unclassified. Those who do not obey the rules, the Pentagon said, risk having their press credentials revoked. The press does not run the Pentagon, all right? The people do. The press is no longer allowed to roam the halls of a secure facility, wear a badge, and follow the rules or go home. No shit. It's a 100% intimidation tactic. It's 100% attempt to kill transparency and funnel all information of military information through the government. No shit. The press has been the problem. And it also comes on the heels of this bullshit. More troops suspended pending investigation into related posts. More than a dozen service members have been suspended or relieved from duties for social media activity related to conservative activist Charlie Kirk's death. Earlier this month, Kirk was shot and killed. He was assassinated during a September 10th event at Utah Valley University in Orem. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said that many of the social media posts celebrating or mocking the assassination of Kirk was completely unacceptable and he would be addressed immediately. Some social media accounts appearing to belong to service members have been identified online by other accounts for commenting, including racists should get the shot and reposts make Nazis dead again, according to a review of X posts by the Military Times. Okay? No shit. There are people who never understood this. Okay? There are plenty of people in the military that have never understood the fact that you don't get freedom of speech. When you're in the military, you don't get it. I was in the military for over a decade and a half. You don't have the ability to say whatever the hell you want and have the right to say it. You will go to prison if you're outside the lines. If you walk in to the general's office and tell him, F you, General so-and-so, you can expect to be headed for Leavenworth to make big rocks turn into little rocks. And you can listen to the working on a coal mine. All right? People, the idea that the military people are being charged for comments that they make publicly. Welcome. Do they still break rocks? The answer to that at Leavenworth is yes. Believe it or not. Hard labor is still a thing. Polygamous. Woman busted through trouble tussle. A contentious demise of a throuple resulted in the arrest of a female member of a polygamous trio, police report. Responding to a 10 p.m. domestic disturbance call, police in Summerfield, Florida, encountered Devin Driscoll, 26, who advised that she wants her ex-boyfriend and ex-girlfriend to be kicked out of the house. The residence is a double-wide mobile home that was purchased by Driscoll's mother in 2023 for $172,500, according to property records. A double-wide mobile home. Okay. Driscoll, police reported, explained that she was in a polygamous relationship with the two, but has since broken up and wants them out. Driscoll's former partners were Anicia Bolivar, 25, and Christopher Rosario, 27. Bolivar and Rosario have a daughter in common, court records show. As for two becoming the three, it's unclear when Driscoll got involved with Bolivar and Rosario. All right. During the disturbance late Tuesday, Driscoll allegedly struck Bolivar in the head while on the home's front porch seen below. Bolivar said she pushed back in self-defense, which caused Driscoll to fall down a couple of steps. Rosario provided the police with a similar description of the incident. Driscoll, who denied shoving Bolivar in the face, was judged the aggressor by deputies and arrested for simple domestic battery, a misdemeanor. After being booked in the Marion County Jail, Driscoll was freed on her own recognizance and ordered to have no contact with Bolivar. The application seeking a public defender, Driscoll stated that she had 3 dependents and $4,900 in a monthly income. All right. Court filings do not indicate where the former throuple members now domiciled. It amazes me. It looks like 3 different pictures here, by the way, and I wonder if all of these have criminal records. From NBC News. U.S. preparing options for military strikes on drug targets inside Venezuela, sources say. U.S. military officials are drawing up options to target drug traffickers inside Venezuela, and strikes within the country's borders could potentially begin in a matter of weeks, 4 sources told NBC News. Those sources are 2 U.S. officials familiar with the planning and 2 other sources familiar with the discussions. They spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss the plans publicly. Striking inside Venezuela would be another escalation in the Trump administration's military campaign against alleged drug targets and its stance toward Venezuela's government. In recent weeks, the U.S. military struck at least 3 boats from Venezuela allegedly carrying narco traffickers and drugs that could be threatening the United States, President Donald Trump said on Truth Social. The administration has not provided evidence that drugs were all on those boats, but an official in the Dominican Republic, alongside one from the U.S. Embassy there, did say at a press conference that drugs were found in the water after one strike. Just putting it out there, folks. Putting it out there. The fish are high. Onward. California MAGA dentist under fire for viral joke about hurting liberal patients. A self-proclaimed MAGA dentist is facing backlash after a video of her joking about turning down pain-relieving gas for liberal patients at her Santa Clarita clinic blew up online. Dr. Harlan Grenwall of Skyline Smiles made this quip and other wisecracks about her distaste for left-leaning clients during a speech at the Republican Liberty Gala in 2021. Comments that recently attracted mass attention after a video of the speech went viral on TikTok. The video has since been taken down, but recorded versions of it and response videos criticizing Grenwall continue to circulate. I have a secret that I use sometimes. It says, "Make your smile great again," she said at a gala, so I wear that when I work with my patients. When they look horrified and complain, I quietly cut back the laughing smile or the laugh on the laughing gas. Um, yeah. Look, if you're using nitrous oxide, you're knocking the patient out. Okay, it doesn't. If she knocks back on the gas, what difference is it gonna make, right? She also jokes about missing the days when Dems stayed home during COVID with their masks on, as well as other liberals' reactions when they see a photo wall of Republican leaders in the office. You'd think that their butt was on fire. They jump up and take off as if Trump was coming into the room. Uh, holy shit, her name Harleen. I haven't seen that name outside of Batman. If Quinn married her, she'd be Harley Quinn. I don't know if this woman's what this is about. The fact that this was 2021, okay, is she getting backlash? Does she deserve backlash? You make public statements like this, right? You're gonna get backlash. You're gonna get backlash, especially if you're in California, lady. Des Moines Public Schools superintendent detained by ICE. The Des Moines Public School District is quickly putting an interim superintendent in place after they said ICE agents grabbed the current superintendent. Press release states that the Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents detained Dr. Ian Roberts Friday morning for being in the country illegally and in possession of a loaded handgun. Federal law does not prohibit those in the country illegally from possessing weapons. DHS says after officers identified themselves to Roberts, he fled the scene in his vehicle. The vehicle was later found abandoned near a wooded area. State Patrol helped locate Roberts and he was taken into ICE custody. The suspect was arrested in possession with a loaded weapon in a vehicle provided by the Des Moines Public Schools, all right, after fleeing law enforcement. This should be a wake up call for all our communities to the great work our officers are doing every day to remove public safety threats. Clearly, he was an innocent man. The Des Moines Public Schools safety officer was also there along with federal immigration officials and the Iowa State Patrol. At the time, he had a loaded handgun, $3,000 in cash, and a hunting knife. Roberts has a history of weapon possession charges dating back to 2020, and yet he was the district's superintendent, school district superintendent. This guy has multiple weapons charges. Oh boy. According to KCCI, the Des Moines Public Schools We're aware that Dr. Roberts' 2021 firearm offense in Pennsylvania at the time of his hiring. In a second statement, the Des Moines Public Schools District addressed Dr. Roberts' prior firearm charge from before his employment began. Do you think maybe, just maybe, there's a problem here? And it starts with these two individuals. Joshua Brown and Des Moines Education Association's Ann Cross released a statement regarding Roberts' detainment on Friday. We are shocked to hear that Dr. Ian's detainment by ICE coming early this morning. Since being hired as superintendent by the Des Moines Public Schools, we have known Dr. Roberts to be a tremendous advocate for students, families, staff, and community. His leadership and compassion for all students, regardless of background, identity, or family origin, are a beacon of light, all right, in one of the state's most diverse school districts. Ding, 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 ding. We were hiding the illegal alien. We were giving him a job. These two people need to be fired. The Iowa State Education President, Joshua Brown, and the Education Association, all right, Ann Cross, need to be fired. They knowingly harbored an illegal alien and used taxpayer dollars, all right, to fund him. Back to the degeneracy scene. Escort battered a man with silly string. September 22nd. A Florida woman, surprise, surprise, was arrested for battery, all right, for allegedly silly string attack. Investigators say that the colorful battery occurred Thursday evening at the OCC Roadhouse Bar in Clearwater. As detailed in an affidavit arrest record, Crystal Watts, 48, confronted the victim and began spraying him with silly string until the can ran empty. She then allegedly threw the can at the victim. Jesse Hammond, 33. The silly string struck Hammond on the forehead, causing a laceration. You mean the can did. The affidavit does not identify the motive for the 9 p.m. fusillade or whether the accused assailant and Hammock, a masonry contractor, were acquaintances. Watts, seen above, was arrested for battery. She spent the night in custody before being freed on $1,000 bond. A phone call listed the defendant in court records turns up an escort service website that includes a variety of explicit photos. From the LA Times. U.S. veteran says he faces retribution from Trump officials for protesting his wrongful arrest. From Melissa Gomez. George Retz Jr. grew up in Southern California, and when he turned 18, he decided to serve in the U.S. Army. He said because he wanted to be part of something bigger than himself. After a tour of duty in Iraq, Retz moved back to Ventura County this year to find a job and spend more time with his wife and his two young children. In February, he began working as a contracted security guard for the Glasshouse Farms at its cannabis greenhouses in Camarillo. Then on July 10th, everything changed as ICE raided Glasshouse, one of its largest immigration raids ever, while he was trying to get to work. Okay, he tried to interfere with ICE officials and doing their job, and he found himself on the ground and arrested. Okay, federal officials surrounded him, pushed him to the ground. He could hardly breathe, he said, as officials knelt on his back and neck. He was arrested and jailed for 3 days and was not allowed to make a phone call or see an attorney, according to the Institute of Justice, a public interest law firm that is representing him. President Trump's Department of Homeland Security never charged Retz with a crime, but after he wrote an op-ed about his experience this month lying, DHS started issuing new accusations against him, saying he was arrested for assault during the raid, which during the 25-year-old veteran denies. Oh, no, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. All right. He said he never resisted and is now being targeted. You never resisted, huh? You were there in the way as a security guard, and you're going to tell us now, oh, but you just sat there quietly and was just watching? Was that the pot place where the kids were working? Yes, it was! On July 10th, Retz was headed for work around 2 p.m. All right. The narrow road leading to the farm was log jammed, he said. He weaved his compact white Hyundai forward past parked cars and protesters determined to make it into his shift. He stopped short when he came up to a line of federal officers who blocked his path. Retz, wearing shorts and a hoodie, got out of his car and tried to tell agents that he worked at the farm. Yeah, okay. Okay. That's the normal response. Hey, I work at that place. Walk on up. Instead of going, oh shit, what's going on? Instead of asking that, he tried to something to go, I work there. Agents ignored him, he said, and instead told him to get out of the way. So he got back in his car and tried to back up. All right. Agents began lobbing gas canisters toward the crowd to disperse him. Reddas began hacking and coughing as gas seeped into his cars, and it began pounding on the car door. Uh-huh. Yeah, okay, you see a crowd of people, because you had to see a crowd of people. You push your way in to the front of the crowd, just to say, well, instead of asking people what's going on, hey, I gotta get to work. I'm innocent, I say, I'm innocent. Sorry, dude, you're not innocent. You're not. You knew what you were doing, all right? Nobody's gonna believe that you were just there trying to get to work. You saw the crowd, you heard what they were yelling about. Instead of calling your boss saying, "Hey, look, you know, I'm not at work because of this." All right. Instead of stepping in the back and seeing things, no, we know what you were doing, dude. You were trying to provide cover for illegal aliens, and yes, you did push your way into things. I was in a car trying to drive through people. Uh huh. Right. Okay. Crazed gunman shouted "Free Palestine" before opening fire and killing a guest at the Sky Meadow Country Club wedding, says witnesses. A crazed gunman shouting "Free Palestine" before he opened fire on the Nashua, New Hampshire wedding reception and killed one guest just as the bride and groom were about to start their first dance, according to witnesses. Police have charged Hunter Nedua, 23, after with murder and after arresting him on Saturday night following the deadly shooting. All right, the victim has been identified as Robert Stevenson DeCarce or DeSere, all right, 59. The armed maniac wearing a mask stormed into the wedding, flipped off guests, and shouted, "Children are safe. The children are safe." Free Palestine, witnesses told local media. Getting together for a dance for the bride and groom, and then all chaos went off, said Tom Barlston, the uncle of the groom, said. We heard about 6 shots and everybody ducked for cover. The next thing you know is we rushed into safe spots, things like that. It's not clear that the attack was targeted or random. What's fairly clear is that he was another left-wing loon. Okay? He was a left-wing lunatic, another violent leftist, day in, day out, leftist violence. Found this. Number of Americans visiting Canada overtakes Canadians visiting the U.S. for the first time in decades. Should be a clue. Okay, the number of Americans visiting Canada has overtaken the number of Canadians making the trip south as Canadians turn against their bigger neighbor in the face of Donald Trump's tariffs because they can't afford to come to America. The real reason this is happening is they can't afford it. The same trend was observed in June this year, but before that, it hadn't happened since June of 2006. The recent shift is largely due down to Canadians' heightened sense of patriotism, leading them to avoid traveling to the U.S. due to President Trump's persistent tariffs on goods crossing the border and his determination to make Canada the 51st state. His determination, huh? Boy, he's really determined to make the 51st state. In July, higher tariffs were imposed on goods not exempted under United States Mexico Canada Free Trade Agreement. However, Wayne Smith, director of the Institute for Hospitality and Tourism Research at Toronto in Metropolitan University, suggested that there were other factors at play. Canadians were also closely monitoring their country's economy. The arrest of undocumented migrants by U.S. agents and unfavorable exchange rates because they're poorer. That's why this is happening. All right. Now, to be honest, the Americans going across the border to quote unquote visit Canada, if you want to visit Canada, stay. Don't come back home. All right. Now, if it's on your bucket list, I understand. You wanted to see something in Canada specifically. But as far as I'm concerned, I would ship liberals up to Canada and leave them there. All of them. Rare orange lobster, dubbed Jean Claude, was returned to Long Island Sound. An ultra rare orange lobster that wound up in a tank in New York store was returned to its ocean home by Long Island based rescue group. Kyle Brancota said he was shopping at Tops on Jefferson Road in Henrietta when he spotted the orange lobster in the store's tank. I think the only reason it was still in the tank was that people probably thought it had a disease or something. Believed he was looking at something special and unusual, he purchased the lobster with the intent to save it from a dinner plate. I borrowed some tank water from Palmer down the road, and that brought me enough time to go to Petco and pick up a 20-gallon tank. And I got the 20 gallons of seawater that they sell in the store in boxes, emptied it into the tank, cooled it down to the proper temperature. He enlisted the help of an animal rescue group, Humane Long Island, which took custody of the crustacean and dubbed it Jean-Claude Van Damme. The lobster was then released into the Long Island Sound on Wednesday. The orange coloration is believed to occur in only 1 out of every 3 million lobsters. The orange lobster, named Peaches, was brought to the University of New England in 2023 so researchers could study the case of unusual pigment. Peaches laid eggs that hatched in 2024, and researchers said some of the babies shared their mother's coloration, indicating a genetic component of the gene of the orange color. That was the B-52 song I was saying. I think lobster. It would have been funny if he goes, I bought it and I delivered it to the White House. See, that would have been a better response, dude. Let's be perfectly honest. That would have been a hell of a statement. All right, could have been a friggin' huge photo opportunity for President Trump to friggin' pardon the lobster and release it. That would have been awesome. That could have been absolutely a chance. Somebody, all right, obviously there's orange lobsters. All right, if anybody's out there and is truly MAGA, suggest this. Go out there, capture an orange lobster, and sit there and see if you can get people to understand, hey, we can do this as a freaking event. Because Trump would love to do something like that. It would be a hell of a day. Police hunt for a pig on the loose in Virginia City. Police in Virginia are asking members of the public to keep an eye out for a fugitive pig that remains at large in Charlottesville despite multiple sightings. The Albemarle County Police Department said reports started coming in Thursday afternoon about a black pig wandering loose in the area of Owensville and Old Ballard Roads. The ACPD Police, or Animal Protection Unit, is working to locate and confine the animal, but it remains at large. The Post urged residents to use caution while driving in the area, as the pig has been seen wandering on the roadways. Police are asking anyone who spots the pig or has information on the animal's owner to contact the department. Two more stories, folks. Two more stories. Free bacon. Not a bad statement. Paul Python captured in New York Park. Two more still on the loose. Animal rescuers in New York said they captured a 4-foot ball python in Queens Park, but two more of the snakes are still on the loose in the area. Rescue group Puppy Kitten New York City said a group member walking home in Queens witnessed people wrangling 3 snakes out on the roadway and next to Forest Park. A bystander helped the rescuer capture one of the snakes, a 4-foot ball python, but the other 2 managed to escape into the park. The snake, dubbed Kevin in honor of one of the locals who helped rescue it, was taken to the Animal Care Centers of New York to be placed into an incubator to warm up from the cold weather. Kevin has now been placed with a rescue. In other words, somebody else has this stupid snake in their house. Better get them sooner. It's cold. It's getting cold. Puppy Kitty New York City said rescuers are now trying to find the other 2 snakes before the cold weather threatens their lives. The rescue said police had been made aware of the python's presence in the park. Ball pythons are considered exotic animals in New York and are not allowed as pets in the city. And the story from TC. Yes, TC gave me this next story. Dun, 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 dun. Vicious squirrels sent 2 neighbors to the ER after a series of attacks. She almost killed me. San Rafael, California. In California, some neighbors are on alert after a series of frightening attacks on people, all perpetrated by a vicious squirrel. The injuries needed quick medical attention. It clamped onto my leg. The tail was up here. I was like, get it off! Get it off me! I didn't want to touch it. It's the last thing Joni expected in her morning walk through Lucas Valley in San Rafael. It came out of nowhere. I didn't see him running up at me at all. Helmick said, Helmick suddenly attacked by a squirrel, which clawed and bit her legs. The wounds were bad enough that she went to the ER. Very scary. How do you get a squirrel attached to your leg off? All right. This is beautiful. Now it's following us. She almost killed me, said Isabel Campoy. Isabel Campoy and her niece Carmen were also attacked while walking to the same area off Mount Lassen Drive. Squirrel went from the floor to try to jump on my face. I tried to protect my face, and my arm was completely overcome by the squirrel. It finally jumped off. By then, I was full of blood and run to the emergency room. When I saw blood on her arm, I said, "Oh my God!" Flyers are now posted alerting residents about the incidents. Neighbors say about 5 people have been attacked so far, possibly by the same squirrel with a goldish color. It's also been the talk of next door. Unfortunately, it's not unheard of, said Vanessa Potter from the Wild Care in San Rafael. Potter said squirrels are not vectors for rabies. The aggressive behavior is likely due to the animal being fed and cared for by humans when it was small. Sure! It's vicious. It's turned vicious because the humans fed it. If they associate people with food, they're not afraid of them. They will look for food. If they don't get it, there can be frustrations. They can be territorial in their space. Expert warned the public against feeding wild animals. In the meantime, neighbors are enjoying the outdoors but watching their backs. Suggestion: carry a shotgun. If you see the squirrel. Squirrels on the attack. Are they sure that it's a California squirrel? They sure didn't scream "Free, free Palestine" before it jumped. Just ask. It sure as hell wasn't going, "Hey, dude, can I have a kind of doopy?" Oh my goodness. The mostly peaceful squirrel. Ah. Final story. Final story for today, folks. Hope that you enjoyed the show. Thanks for coming out, and I will talk at you all later. Bye bye.